In this episode of Kids Podcast, I am honored to share wisdom with you about leading kids in your church and in your home. Dealing with kids is hard work, and I'm praying that we add some tools to your tool belt today. So let's dive into today's topic. Side hustles. That's what we're talking about today in our episode of Kids Podcasts. How do I bring in the little extra bread? Bring home the bacon. I need a little bit more. I'm Ron Gale. I'm your podcast host for this episode. And we're talking about side hustles you can do while doing the thing you love. For some of you, you are a pastor, you're a teacher, you're a coach, you're a parent, and you need a little side hustle on top of what you're already doing. And so let's dive in with today's topic of Kids Podcasts. For those of you that are new, Kids Podcast is all about leading the leaders of kids into an overflowing life with Jesus, because, hey, we're also leading those kids into an overflowing life with Jesus. And so let's break this down because it's pretty dynamic. It's pretty unique. I've actually recorded this episode 4 times now, and I've not liked the outcome of it. So I'm going to do it differently this time, because at the end of the day, what I want you guys to come to understand is that we're not looking to make extra cash. Although that's what we want, although at home that's what we feel like we need, this episode is not just about extra cash. It is about sustainable alignment. And that word alignment's very big throughout this episode. Sustainable alignment, a source of income that does not steal from your calling. It does not steal from your calling. And when I say calling, I hope there's an understanding that there is your core calling, and then there is the shape of calling. And that's probably a whole nother episode in and of itself. But all of us have a core calling, and we're doing it, and we love it, and we want to keep doing it. A side hustle is not just extra cash, although that's what we get. It's about finding sustainable alignment, sustainable aligned income that complements our core calling. So here's the breakdown of the episode. I'm going to give it to you right away so that you can listen to what you need to listen to and then decide to stop when you're ready to stop, or just listen to it all. I'm going to tell you my story first rather than in the end. Then I'm going to give you the myths of side hustles. I'm going to break down my 3 main attack for finding a side hustle, and then things to avoid while looking for a side hustle. So let's do this. Dive in. Let's go. So my story. I've been in ministry now for 20 plus years. And right out of college, I went into ministry. Actually, while I was in college, I was still doing ministry. And even when I was full-time, there was always this need for a little extra. And it was never, ever about not getting paid enough, although there are times I felt that way. And although there is a huge reality among many of us that we're in a career or in a calling that is just not luxurious. Pastors and teachers and coaches don't get paid good enough unless we are in the 1% of that category, where we are pastoring, coaching, and teaching the best of the best of the best at a professionally high level. And if you're a parent, unless you married up, being a parent is something that requires our time, and most of us do because it is our responsibility, not because it's a job. And for many of you, being a parent is a calling, and I can respect that, honor that, and love it. So there's just this thing that we all fit on the same page with. We all feel like we need, well, a little extra. And I didn't really feel it until I got married while in ministry. Um, and it was never that I didn't have enough to put a roof over our heads, or I did not have enough to feed our mouths. I didn't have enough to put clothes on our backs. It was more like, I hope the car does not break down this week. It was more like, we can eat, but it has to be McDonald's again, or it has to be make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich again, or it has to be anything but going to the steakhouse. It was a lot of just budgeting, saying no to things, and living maybe just par of our means, just par. And so if we had just a little bit more, we could have gone on that vacation. If we had just a little bit more, we could have gone out to eat. We could have, if we had just a little bit more, I would not stress over a flat tire. That's the kind of income I always needed. Um, when you say the word grind, that's how my ministry has been for many, many years. We were grinding in order to get by. We always had enough. God always provided. But in 20 years, I've never taken my wife to Ireland or to Alaska or to a really cool place like that, so that she could see the world. And one of the things that my wife loves is to travel. And we just don't do it because gas costs money, because going places costs money, because staying at that lodge or that resort or on that cruise or even just the hotel or the Airbnb, it costs money. And it's extra money that we just didn't have. Now we did not have debt, or at least we didn't have a large amount. Most of us, when we graduate, there's that debt. When we buy a house, there's that debt. When we buy a car, there's that debt. Honestly, we did not have an educational debt. We paid it off right away. We didn't have a house debt until just 5, 6 years ago when we bought our first house. Um, we didn't have car debt because, yeah, we paid it off early. So we don't have a lot of debt that keeps us from doing those things. Um, we just had enough to get by. And it's like I said, we didn't go on big vacations, and we prayed and prayed and prayed that the car would not break down. Um, so over the many years, the things that I've done were things that added income to my life, added a little extra cash. And for those of you that don't know, I coach soccer on the side. I've been coaching soccer straight out of college because I love soccer. I've played soccer. I'm both a soccer player and a soccer coach. And hey, if you're a soccer coach, I've got a book out. It's called Ron Sense. It rhymes with nonsense, but begins with the R because, hey, my name is Ron. And it's less about kicking a ball and more about thinking about the game. And that's a whole little blurb. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for Ron Gale book. Anyways, so I coach soccer. I would do that on the side. I like to build things. I did that on the side. I love art. Even in high school and middle school, I was all about art. I almost went to an actual art school um, for an art degree. Instead, God called me into ministry, so I went to ministry school. So I've done graphic design, I've done web design, I've done book cover design, I've done branding design, I've done all those things. I like to speak, I like to write. I've done that for people, places, things, churches, leadership groups, even sat with board meetings and gave full consultations. So I've done those things for a little bit of extra cash on the side. Now, one time I was out fishing. One thing I never get paid to do is fish, and I've kind of refused to get paid to fish um, because I didn't want to turn something I really, really love into another job. um, so I was out fishing one time, and all of a sudden, in the middle of an an hour drive away, someone says, Pastor Ron! And I was like, whoa, who knows me out here? And there was this guy. He about 15, 16 years ago, this guy was one of my youth leaders when I served at a church. And he was fishing in the same spot I was fishing. So needless to say, we sparked up a fishing conversation, and next thing you know, we're fishing together often. Driving to Erie to fish, driving over there to fish, meeting up over here to fish, sending each other fish pics, sending each other fishing memes. Fish, fish, fish. He becomes my new fishing best friend. He was no longer my ministry friend. He was now my fishing bestie. That's right. We have that kind of thing as fishermen. One time he gives me a call and he's like, hey, Ron, I'm going fishing. I'm like, oh, yeah? He's like, yeah, I'm going to go catch big fish. I'm like, ooh, it's going to be in New York. And I'm like, whoa. He's like, it's going to be awesome. We're going to sleep overnight. And I'm like, wow. He's like, you want to come? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, it's going to cost $1,200. I'm like, whoa, nope, I'm out. And so he said, is it because of the money? I said, yep. He said, well, why don't you come and help me on the weekends? Just on Saturdays, come once a week for the next 12 weeks, over the next 16 to 18 weeks available, and it will pay for itself. And I said, deal. Yep, on it. And this guy was a general contractor. He had his own contracting business, and he's good at it, real good at it. The kind of general contracting where they show up, there's nothing but grass, and by the time they leave the site, it is a full house. Not just a house, it's like $1 million house. It's nice looking. So I would show up, help with whatever they told me to help with. Sometimes it was landscaping, sometimes it was soffit repairs or install, sometimes it was drywall, sometimes it was, you name it, I just did it. He showed me how to do it. Some of it was super easy because I've done it before. Some of it was super easy because, you can learn it from YouTube, and now I'm doing it. Some of it I just had to learn real quick. But growing up, I always had a knack for building things and building forts and building tree houses. This was something I did before I was even an adult. I liked building things. Legos and blocks, that was my thing as a kid. I enjoyed it. Can I say I love it? No. But I enjoyed it enough to do it all day. If the Millennial Falcon Lego set was a thing back when I was a kid, you better believe I would sit around for the next 3 days working on that thing and not bat an eye. And that's kind of how it is now. It's I'm working on a thing in my backyard, in my shed, or on my shed, and the whole day goes by, and I'm like, oh, I guess we're done for the day, or I should eat. But I don't love it. I just enjoy it, and I'm pretty good at it. And this general contractor said to me, Ron, you should consider doing this as a career because you're good enough to do it. And I said, bro, you know me. I'm a full-time pastor. And he said, okay. We just kept fishing. So a year goes by, and I had a couple of churches give me a call and say, hey, Ron, we want you to come to our church and be our kids' pastor. And my wife and I just did not feel a peace about it. So we said no. This happened twice, I believe. Then it was about a year later, after that initial conversation with the general contractor about going full-time. He said, for real, Ron, I'm serious. I want you on my team. I want you full-time. And I will pay you this much. And I was like, whoa, that's nearly double what I'm making now. He said, in 1 year, it could increase to this. By 3 years, it could increase to that. By 5 years, it could increase to this. And I was like, wow, that is a significant raise. Now, on top of that conversation, at home, the classic thing happens where, the car needs a little bit of attention. The check engine light comes on. I take the car to the shop thinking it was going to be a $50, $100 bit. Bada bing, bada boom. And it was not. It was $1,000 later. And I remember giving the guy my soccer card, and he charged me $1,000. And I didn't cry in front of him, but I basically cried in front of him because it hurt that much. It hurt a lot. Um, so at home, we had this financial crisis, and we were feeling it. And I was starting to do this prayer of, Lord, we need to figure out a solution. We need you to provide. We need. And at the exact same time, at the church, there was another financial situation. For whatever reason, the budget wasn't lining up. The budget wasn't happy. The budget. Money. You know how it is. And it would have helped the church if there was one less staff person to worry about. So I talked to the wife about this idea of working full time for the general contractor to make double the income and potentially no longer doing full time ministry, if no longer being on staff at a church. We prayed about it. I'm talking like a couple of weeks of praying about it. Long conversation. And I should do a whole episode on how to make big decisions and how long I should take to make that decision. Pull the trigger. Future episode. Anyways, so a month of fasting, praying, and talking about it. We decide together that we're both at peace about it. We're both happy about it. And we both move forward with it. I sit down, have this conversation with my senior pastor, and we agree to move forward, that I'm going to give up being a full-time kids pastor in order to be a full-time contractor. That's right. I became a carpenter. Now, fortunately for me, at that particular time, the boss man at the church did not want me to quit. He wasn't going to force me not to quit because he can't. But he didn't want me to go either. He had lots of questions that I was ready for, questions that I had already audited, and he'd asked me if I considered staying on as part-time. And I was like, yeah, I would. I would be part-time, and I'd be happy to, and I want to. So, all in all, I was getting paid full-time to work as a carpenter and part-time to work as a kids pastor. My income nearly tripled with one major decision. And we could say that this happened, that happened, whatever happened. But I think bottom line is that the Lord knew what was going on in our lives. The Lord heard my prayer when I said, Lord, we need. I think the Lord saw my teardrop. And there was a door, there was peace, and we moved forward. Now we fast forward, I think we're almost a year after that particular situation. I'm actually no longer on staff at the church. I still attend that church. I still go to church on Sunday mornings whenever I'm available. And my wife still serves as the missions director by this date of March of 26. And we have no need or reason to leave at the moment. Because right now, this is where we're at in our calling. This is the shape of our calling. I am doing full-time construction, and then when I'm not there, I'm writing, I'm podcasting, I'm traveling to speak. All last month, I was at another church speaking. This month, I was at camps and retreats, being a part of the whole process. Next month, I got Easter coming up. I've got some Easter messages to deliver. I've got books in the works. My daughter and I are writing a kid's book together. She's going to illustrate while I write, and that should be out real soon. So my calling is not done. It's just changed its shape. I'm still in kids ministry. It just does not look the same. And that's my story. Because I'm like many of you. doing a thing I love, but I just was scared that the car would break down. I'm doing something I care about. I was just wishing I could take my family on a vacation that was cooler than down the road. I'm passionate about what I'm involved with when it comes to kids. I just hope there's no emergency that requires a dentist. Um, that's the need for a side hustle. So in this episode of Side Hustle, um, again, it's not about extra cash. It's about sustainable alignment. It's about finding income that won't steal oxygen from your calling. So let's go into the parts now. The different myths was the first part. I have 3 myths to cover, and then after that we'll go into the hedgehog concept. 3 myths. Myth number 1 is that the side hustle makes ministry easier. All right? There's this idea that if I get a little bit more income, things will be easy for ministry. That is not true. Nope. Let me tell you this. Ministry is already stressful. Right? You're dealing with people, and where there are people, there are problems. But hey, we love people, we love small people, and our calling is to help people see Jesus, even if they're being ding dongs. You know, we want to pray for Jesus, and we want to smack them at. We want to pray to Jesus, and we want to smack his people at the same time. That's just kind of the nature of working with people. Ministry is not easy. It is stressful. So when you add a side hustle, it's like adding this little bit more of stress to something that's already stressful, right? Ministry is emotional. Ministry is spiritual. Ministry takes time. Ministry comes with hard decisions. Ministry is full of stress. Lots of stress. So the myth that it becomes easier when you get a side hustle is not true. It is not true. Myth number two says that side hustles answer all your problems. If I just had a little bit more income, it would fix this problem. If I just had a little bit more cash, it would fix this problem. False. It actually creates new problems. It creates new problems. Because now you have one more thing to add to your schedule. You have one more thing to balance. You have one more thing to figure out. You have one more thing that takes away from your kids, one more thing that takes away from your spouse. You have one more thing that you need to worry about. And although you might have income that wasn't there before, now you have a new problem. It's, we need you home, honey, or daddy, will you play? Why don't you want to play? Why don't you have energy to play? It's just new, different problems. So let's go on to myth number 3, is that there's a belief that side hustles will, or side hustle is a sense of good work. This is good work. This is a good thing to add to what I'm already doing. And I'm not saying it's bad work. I'm saying the point of this episode is aligned work, sustainable alignment. And the bottom line with the myths is this, is that if your side hustle requires you to become someone that you are not, it is no longer a side hustle. It's just plain old a burden. Let me repeat. If your side hustle requires you to become someone that you are not, it is no longer a side hustle. It is a burden. So, lock that in. Side hustles add stress. Side hustles create new problems. And side hustles, if they're not in alignment, doesn't necessarily make it good work. So let's go into the main meat of this particular episode, talking about the hedgehog concept of how you would go about selecting a side hustle that is sustainable, aligned income. Now, the concept of hedgehog the hedgehog concept comes from a book titled Good to Great, titled by author Jim Collins. Great book. It's read. Um, it's a popular leader's book. I highly recommend it if you've not ever looked into it. But the hedgehog concept says that there are things that you are good at, things that you are passionate about, and things that you are experienced, and you begin to narrow things down that fit into all three. And that's what we're going to do right now. So if you got pen and paper, you can rewind this episode and start from here and talk about the hedgehog concept and how you can figure out a side hustle that is sustainable, alignable income. All right. The first category are things that you are good at. Things that you are good at. These are skill-based things that you know how to do, and not just know how to do, but you're pretty good at it. This is not about enjoying it. This is not about having years and years of experience. It's just I'm good at this. This might be things that someone might say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And they're asking you for help because you're good enough to do it. This is not things that you think you're good at, because I know a lot of singers that think they're good. And the truth is, they're only good when they're in the shower and their shower head is loud. So let's make a list. You're going to start writing things down. All the things that you believe are genuinely things that you are good at. You're going to add to this list anything that people have asked you to do. So, for example, when I made my list, I have a list of a lot of things that I'm pretty good at. And this is not a time for you to be like, "Oh, don't be pompous. I need to be meek." That's not what this is about. If you want to figure out your side hustle, throw that out the door and use your left brain logic to write this list down. So, for example, for Ron Gale, the podcast host, I was good at art. I've always been good at art. I'm good at building things. I've always been good at building things. I'm good at soccer. I've always been good at soccer. I'm good at fishing. I've always been good at fishing. I can keep going down this list, but you get the idea. I'm good at a bunch of things. I'm good at talking. I'm good at sitting with people and listening, except with my wife. I'm good at parenting. I'm good at writing. I'm good at you name it. This is for you. Don't be meek here. Don't be humble. It's just for you anyways. Write it down. Make a long list. And it should be as long as you can possibly think of. There's a lot of things you're good at. If you're not sure, write it down anyways. For example, I don't think I'm good at basketball, but I wrote it down, right? Because I'm not bad at basketball. I'm good at football. So I wrote down little things that are arbitrary to the big scheme of things. I cannot over-exaggerate this particular point. You want a long list here. If you like picking out things on eBay or Amazon in order to fill a need. For example, you need tire rims and you like searching for that kind of thing and you are pretty good at finding it when other people seem to struggle with it. Boom, write it down. If you like and are good at walking through Goodwill and thrift stores and you seem to find really good deals and you can flip it, even if you've done it a handful of times, write it down. Anything you were good at, anything you were good at, anything you were good at, anything. Long list. Whew, you guys got it? All right, let's go on to hedgehog concept part, segment 2, because we said things that you're good at. Now it's things that you are passionate about. So from your long list, you might have 100 things on that list, but not 100 of those things are things that you care about or love. A great example is I mentioned basketball and football and soccer, right? So those are sports that I've played. If you want to add the other sports that I've played that I'm good at, not horrible at, that's the key point. Not horrible at it. Basketball, football, soccer, golf, right? Volleyball. Only one of those I care about a lot. Maybe a second one I kind of care about. I don't care about golf. I don't care about volleyball. I don't really care about football. I, I kind of care about basketball. I play it. I play it enough to be like, yeah. But I love soccer. So what I'm going to do is, out of that list, I'm going to circle the ones I care about, even if it's just a little bit of care. Like basketball for me, I cared about it just a little. Um, but golf, I could care less if I play or don't play it. In fact, I only played it because my brother played it. Because my brother played it. I could not play ever again, and I'd be okay with that. But soccer, basketball, I circled them. You're following. And then we're going to go into the third part. The third part. And that is things that I have experience with, or I'm seasoned with, or have years of knowledge with, or things that I've gone through pain with, whether it's pain of injury, pain of heartache, pain of emotion, pain of stress, any level of pain. These are the things that I've have experience with. So my list of 5 different sports, it has dropped down to 2 different sports, basketball and soccer. And honestly, I've had pain in both. I have experience in both. I've done both. But one of them I have done a lot of. And that was soccer. I have lots of injuries, lots of seasoning, lots of whatever. And so, my list of 100 things, and then I subcategorized them down to things I cared about, to now things that I have experience with. I've now really narrowed down to a handful of things. You could do the same. So for me, it came. Soccer was something I've made a pretty good side hustle on. I have made side hustles on basketball, but not a lot. And that's kind of where I put on the bottom of the list kind of thing. I've coached at a college level basketball. But don't get too excited because it was like the red shirt assistant to the assistant coach, right? What I got out of it was very little. But I still was able to invest and still got a little bit out of. But soccer, that was a pretty significant income that I was making on the side, from private training, from book writing, to coaching an actual high school, to athletic directing an organization called Soccer Shots for a particular branch. I made a significant amount of side hustle income over the years through soccer. And I still make that income, even now as we're speaking, as league director, as facility coordinator, as coach and captain. I make a significant income as a coach. So, if we're using just one idea, which is for me, soccer, my list of 100 dropped down to 5, which then dropped down to 1 or 2. And that's where my side hustles fall in. Now, as you have now heard through this particular episode, I make side hustles through books, through traveling, through speaking, through soccer, through construction, right? It's because I've done a lot of things over my time. I care about a handful of them, and then I am experienced or seasoned, or have gone through the pain of a few of them. And those are the few that I am good at. And here's the big picture, is that, yes, I could get paid to sell pizza and deliver it. In fact, it's not hard for me to make pizza. I'm actually pretty good at making pizza. I've made pizza on a grill before. That's okay. That fits on my list of things that I'm good at, making pizza. But I just don't care about it. So it didn't make the list. And nor do I have the long season of doing it. And I don't care about traveling to deliver pizzas. I actually did that once. I delivered pizzas for a season because of a side job. But I don't care about it. And that's the point of the hedgehog concept, is that it's got to hit all three. All three. So your list of 100 drops down to, say, 20, then it drops down to, say, 5. Now you have 5 things that you can pick from, that you are good at, that you care about, and that you are experienced with, that you can build a side hustle around that is sustainable, alignable income, not just extra cash that steals oxygen from your ministry. And that's the big picture of this whole episode. If I had to re-record it one more time, I'm going to say that particular line again and again and again. So you can probably rewind that and listen to it again. So let's go on to the next part 3. Part 1 was the myths. Part 2 was my hedgehog concept by Jim Collins. And part 3 is things that I avoid when going into a particular side hustle that I've just selected. So I avoid side hustles that require constant urgency. Constant. If you're trying to do full-time ministry, full-time whatever, and you pick up a side hustle that requires constant urgency, it needs you now, go, that is not going to be stress-free. You don't want that. Right? It might be in alignment in the picture of things, but if your core calling is ministry, don't add stress to an already stressful career. Another thing to avoid is avoid a side hustle that makes you resent doing ministry. And often this is kind of a reverse. It's like while you're trying to side hustle, your church boss is like, bro, I need you here. One of the common ones that I've seen over the many years is that, a youth pastor wants to become a side hustle youth coach for the local basketball team, and the local your church boss is like, bro, I need you in the office at 6 p.m. to do this thing, not at basketball because you're full time. Then you kind of get in this like, and you're like resenting ministry because the pastor's being a ding dong, or you're resenting ministry because the ministry is demanding you to have an ultimatum, and that's not cool. So I don't want a side hustle that's going to make me resent ministry. The third thing I would avoid is a side hustle that competes with ministry. Like, I know that it's going to compete. So a great example is soccer for me. Over the years, I've coached soccer, but the one thing I've never coached is club and cup. Why? Because a large percentage of cup and club takes place on Sunday mornings, and I am at church on Sunday mornings, so I don't teach Sunday morning soccer. Right? Very simple. If it competes with my calling, I'm not going to do it. All right, and the third thing I avoid is I avoid side hustles that other people have been successful at. Yeah, let me repeat that. I avoid side hustles that other people have been successful at. Why? Because of the hedgehog concept. Remember, there's things that you're good at, things that you care about, things that you're experienced with. And the things that they chose to do are things that they are good at, they care about, and they are seasoned with. Not you. A great example is this thing I see on Reels all the time. Is people go to thrift stores and Goodwill and yard sales. They buy this like $1 thing, they flip it, and they sell it for $100, and boom, their side hustle is making them big bucks. Would I be able to do that? Sure, it's not brain surgery, but I just don't care about that. I'm not passionate about that. I don't have experience that has come with pain in doing that. For me to pick that up, it would take a whole lot. So I'm not going to do something that was successful for them because it may not be successful for me. But most importantly, that's their thing, not my thing. And I'm all about finding a sustainable, alignable income that does not steal oxygen from my core calling. And that's what you want. So don't just dive into something because someone else did super good at it. And there is the entire episode. Side hustles. I hope this helps. I hope I don't have to record it again. But if you want to talk more in depth about this, If you want to talk more about my story, about how I gave up full-time ministry in order to do full-time, construction, and what that looks like, that's just different. Because for me, my core calling never changed. It was just the shape of my calling after doing it for 20 plus years. And does that mean I'm going to do it this way forever? I have no clue. I'm just following the Lord. I'm following where the peace is. I've made prayers. He's opened doors, and this is where I've landed. And that might be the solution for some of you. It's no longer thinking through like I need to make a full-time income, the thing I love, and a side hustle on something else. It might be just switching it all together, where the side hustle that was construction becomes the full-time gig, and then your calling becomes a side hustle. Does that mean you're giving up your calling? No, that's not what that means. I'm still in ministry. I still love what I do. I'm still writing books and doing podcasts. In fact, I'm writing more books and writing more podcasts and speaking to more people than I've done before. The only thing that I really miss is going on the stage to entertain kids every Sunday. So the core calling never changes. It's the shape of your calling that might change. And if you want to talk more about that, hit me up. We'll make it happen. Until next time, everybody say, bye, Pastor Juan. Thank you for listening. Smash those like buttons, turn the bells blue, or whatever the kids are doing these days. At the end of the day, our goal is to raise little people to one day become big people. You can find older archived podcasts on our YouTube channel and support what we do at rongaleministries.com. Enjoy!